On October 2nd at 6:45 a.m., Horace Pinker was put to death by electric chair. Let's talk about Wes Craven's Shocker. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good one today. I'm Nick, and continuing my October review series, I'm going to talk about the movie Shocker from 1989, directed by the great Wes Craven. Now, I've seen this movie in the past, but I was all drugged up on Benadryl. I had really bad allergies at the time, and I remember taking a Benadryl. Don't take pills at all. Don't even take Tylenol, so they really hit me. And I took a Benadryl and I was just dozy and in and out of her. I remember watching this movie thinking, what the hell am I watching? Because this movie gets crazy. We'll get into that though. The basic plot to this film is about this serial killer going around murdering these families. And this one teen played by Peter Berg, who I always remember from Corky Romano being one of the Mafia brothers. Hilarious movie. He starts having these dreams, and when he's dreaming, it kind of teleports him to where the killer is murdering people. And the killer's name is Horace Pinker. He's played by Mitch Pileggi. Does a great job too. So, and the first dream he has where he ends up where the killer is killing this family, it happens to be his foster family. Just so happens. So he wakes up and gets a phone call and finds out that his foster family actually got murdered. So he knows that the dream was actually real. And this leads to him working with the cops. His dad's the detective, his foster dad. And they kind of work together to try to catch this killer because he recognizes what he looks like. He recognizes his van. He drives like a TV repair van. And I think this is all a really cool idea for a plot. This all eventually leads to catching the killer, Horace Pinker, and giving him the death sentence via electric chair. And to me, the biggest problem in this movie is its tonal shifts. The first half of this movie, right up to the execution, is super dark, super gritty and grimy. This murderer is ruthless. He's not out there cracking jokes or nothing. He's just out there, he's angry, and he wants to kill. And I feel like the atmosphere, everything goes along with that so well in the first 30 to 40 minutes of this flick. And then once he gets electrocuted, it starts to become cheesy. Like the effects, everything becomes a little bit more cheesy. He makes a deal with the devil or something in his jail cell before he gets electrocuted so that he could become immortal, basically. What he does, he's one with electricity. He can jump from body to body because we have electricity in our bodies, power, and like become someone else, like a shapeshifter, or he can jump out of them and go into TV sets or lamps or anything that's drawing power, right? That's like his gift that he got from the devil in his jail cell, which was a really cheap scene. He has like booster cables on himself and to his TV, shocking himself, and this weird face comes out to give him the power. It's really ridiculous, and that's really when the movie starts to almost fall apart for me. It's still a hell of a fun time, but you have to kind of turn off your brain as the runtime goes on. And when we reach the final act, it is all out Freddy's Dead bonkers cheesiness, campiness. It's terrible. It's this guy is jumping in and out of TV shows at the end of it into the TV while our main character's chasing him, which also makes no friggin' sense. And yeah, it just gets way too bonkers and Looney Tunes to me by the end. The effects, like I said, they're mixed. We get some really cool shots of like where the police officers are going down to look, or the guards are looking at his body in jail when he's on the ground, and he grabs like one by the lip and shit and stretching it out. Great practical effects there. Also great effects when he goes out and murders the main character's girlfriend. It's so bloody, man. The whole apartment's covered in blood. The girl's soaking in a bathtub full of blood. I'm like, this is dark as hell. But yet you mix it with these Looney Tunes moments. Like with him jumping in the TV, and when he leaves a body to go into another one, he's like static electricity, and it looks very dated, very cheap. And that's the one thing I'll say about this movie. This movie is very, very dated. Like, this was one in need of a remake, but again, I don't know if you could even pull that off. It might still seem silly with the way things play out. Because I do think that Horace Pinker, played by Mitch Pileggi, does a fantastic job, and I would like to see him return in other films. He's a mean bastard, man. Like, he is a stone cold killer. He has maybe one or two one-liners near like the three-quarter mark of the film, but for the most part, he's just menacing and scary, and just an all-around tough dude. And it would make a great slasher villain, but we only got this one movie with him, so he's not very known. But to me, he did a great job. I think Peter Berg, and our main lead here, does a great job as well with what he's given. He lacks a bit of emotion when his foster family dies at the first. I feel like he kind of just brushes it off and wants to catch the killer, which is understandable, but you think he would still have some sort of, emotional distress, like when your family dies. We do get to see that when his girlfriend dies, which she dies super brutally, by the way. You do get to see some of that emotion come out of him, and grief. But like I said, it's a little weird that he doesn't do that with his family. There's also certain themes and plot lines that aren't really fleshed out completely in this film. For instance, like the girlfriend and her necklace. She dies, comes back as a ghost randomly, which again is very cheesy. But her necklace somehow gives the main character power to do whatever he wants. It's like, this doesn't make any sense to me. Like for instance, he could use it when the other guy's going in and out of TVs, which makes sense because he has the power from like the devil or whatever. But he just is like, well, using the necklace, I can do anything also. And he like puts it over the TV and jumps through it, and it works for him. I'm like, what? And again, later in the movie, he's using the necklace as his power. I'm like, I just do not get this. It's not like he's using the cross against the devil or anything. He's literally using this like heart necklace to just give him powers. I'm like, this makes no freaking sense. It's not really explained or doesn't have a whole lot of meaning to it. It's just kind of there to advance the plot. Now, like I mentioned earlier, this is a Wes Craven flick, which, I mean, I love Nightmare on Elm Street, Last House on the Left, Scream. He made a lot of great movies. People Under the Stairs is a really underrated one. But this one is, like I said, the tone is just too all over the place for me. And I heard that Craven did that on purpose. I seen in an interview once where he said that in the early 80s, horror was very serious and gritty and that. And as the 80s went on, it got more ridiculous, which is very true if you see Freddy's Dead and all those movies, that they just got so over the top and cheesy by the late 80s. And I heard that he wrote this movie purposely to start off similar to the early 80s. And as the movie plays out, it plays out a lot more like the late 80s movies. So he was kind of trying to show the evolution of horror in the 80s within this film, from going serious to super cheesy. And okay, that's an interesting experiment to do, but none of the viewers know that, and it just comes off as odd, very bizarre. And there's definitely some tonal issues there that just don't work. I can still have a good time with it once I turn my brain off and you know what you're getting into, but it does not make it for high-end cinema. But the film does have that 80s charm, which I really like. Even the bad movies in the 80s, I can still get some enjoyment out of them just because of the look and the aesthetics of them. It was just the style of the 80s, and it's still here. Even though this came out in 89, you still feel the 80s present in this film, especially in its soundtrack. Now, what a kick-ass soundtrack. I don't know all the names to the bands in that in here. I know Megadeth's on here with No More Mr. Nice Guy. The music video for that was even for this film. But every other track is this badass. They're all like these heavy metal, hard rock tunes. And it just... the soundtrack on its own is definitely worth checking out. It is just awesome. Definitely my cup of tea. Just my style of music. Even the main menu, when I put this on, I got the Scream Factory Collector's Edition here. Great cover there too. I love how they make their own artwork. But even on that, I left it on the main menu for a while, and I just couldn't change it. I'm like, man, this song is so good. They play like this 45-second long riff on the main menu, and I tried Shazamming it. It didn't come up, so I had to actually go through the whole soundtrack of Shocker, and it's the 4th track, and it's just so damn good. You guys definitely should check it out, and just check out the soundtrack in general. It's just a hard rock, heavy metal soundtrack that if you're into that, you'll definitely enjoy this. and it definitely adds to the charm of the 80s. Um, Not the best film. If I'm gonna give my complete rating on it, not rating, but recommendation, I'm about halfway on it. I think the first half is some of the best stuff Craven has put out. With a lot of the dream sequences, even remind me of A Nightmare on Elm Street at times. He has some of those ideas put into here, but then the second half is just so damn cheesy that it's a negative for me. So this is kind of in the middle. I'm mixed on it, guys. If I had to choose to give it a thumbs up or down, I'd lean a little bit more towards thumbs up, just because I love slashers. This one's a different one, very supernatural, has that 80s charm, the great soundtrack, and pretty good performances. So I would lean a little bit towards thumbs up. I give this like a 3 star, but it's very low 3 star. It's about to go down to the 2.5 star. It's fairly mixed for me, but I can have just enough enjoyment out of it to put it on every few years. So there's my thoughts on Shocker, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If anything I mentioned interests you, definitely check it out. If not, check out the soundtrack if you're into that type of music, because it is badass. And that's all I got for you guys today for another October review. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching.